I was sitting in the back of a Humvee somewhere in Virginia, boots still covered in dust from our last training exercise, when my phone buzzed with a call from Mom. That alone made my stomach drop, because she never called during duty hours unless something was seriously wrong. "Jake, thank God you picked up," her voice came through shaky and breathless. "There are people here saying they're from the HOA and they're trying to force me out of the house. They have a locksmith and everything. They're saying I have 20 minutes to vacate or they'll have me arrested for trespassing." My blood ran cold. "What, Mom, slow down, what HOA? You don't live in an HOA community." "That's what I told them," her voice cracked with panic, "but they have official-looking documents and badges. There's a woman named Patricia who says she's the HOA president, and she has 2 men with her. Jake, I'm scared. They're on the porch right now and one of them is already trying to change the locks." I looked at my watch. We had just gotten released for a 72-hour leave after 3 weeks of intensive training operations. My team was literally sitting around me in the vehicle, heading back to base to grab our gear before dispersing. We were maybe 5 minutes from the main gate. "Mom, listen to me very carefully," I said, my voice shifting into the calm, controlled tone I used in operations. "Do not let them inside. Lock the door, go to your bedroom, and stay on the phone with me. What's the address again?" She rattled off the address in Chesapeake, Virginia. The house she'd bought 3 years ago after Dad passed. The house that was absolutely, definitely not part of any homeowners association because that had been one of her main requirements when she was house hunting. She hated the idea of someone telling her what color she could paint her shutters. "We're 5 minutes out," I told her. "My entire SEAL team is with me and we just got released on leave. Do not open that door." I heard a loud banging through the phone. "Ma'am, you need to open this door immediately or we will have you forcibly removed," a shrill woman's voice shouted. "Hold tight, Mom, we're coming." I turned to my team lead, Chief Petty Officer Marcus Rodriguez. "Chief, we have a situation. Fake HOA people are trying to evict my mother from her home in Chesapeake. She's alone and they're threatening her." Marcus didn't hesitate. "How far?" 20 minutes from her house, 5 from base." "Davis, step on it," Marcus ordered our driver. "Change of plans. We're making a detour." The rest of my team, 6 guys who'd become closer than brothers over 2 deployments and countless training operations, immediately switched gears. These were men I'd trust with my life, and now I was trusting them with my mother's safety. "What's the play?" asked Danny Chen, our communications specialist. "Right now, information gathering," Marcus said. "But if they're impersonating officials and attempting an illegal eviction, that's multiple felonies. Jake, keep your mom on the line. Someone call the Chesapeake PD and get real police en route." Kyle Morrison, our medic, was already dialing. "On it, Chief." Through the phone, I could hear my mom's voice trembling. "Jake, they're saying they're going to break down the door. The woman is screaming about violations and fines and legal authority." "Mom, I need you to do something for me," I said. "I need you to go to the front window where they can see you, and I need you to hold up your phone so they know you're talking to someone. Don't open the door, but let them see you're not alone and that someone knows what's happening." I heard her footsteps, then the rustle of curtains. "Okay, I'm at the window." "Good. Now tell them, loud enough for them to hear through the door, that your son is a Navy SEAL and he's 5 minutes away with his entire team and that the police are being called." There was a pause, then I heard my mom's voice, stronger now. "My son is a Navy SEAL and he's 5 minutes away with his entire team. The police are coming." Through the phone, I heard a woman's voice, high-pitched and indignant. "I don't care if your son is the president. We have legal authority here. You are in violation of HOA bylaws and you will vacate immediately." "Did you get that?" I asked Marcus. He nodded grimly. "She's committed now. She's not backing down even with the threat of authorities coming. Either she's incredibly stupid or she's done this before and gotten away with it." "Chesapeake PD is dispatching a unit," Kyle reported. "ETA 15 minutes. I told them it was an attempted home invasion with multiple suspects. We'll be there first. said Tommy Wright, checking his watch. Davis pushed the Humvee faster through the late afternoon traffic. We weren't in uniform exactly, we were in our standard issue clothing, but we looked exactly like what we were. A team of highly trained military operators. That was going to work in our favor. "Mom, what do these people look like?" I asked. She described them through shaky breaths. "The woman, Patricia, she's maybe 50, blonde hair and that short, angry haircut. She's wearing a blazer with an HOA badge pinned to it. There are 2 men with her. One is tall and heavy, balding. The other is younger, thin, wearing a shirt that says HOA enforcement on it. They have clipboards and cameras." "Cameras," Marcus perked up at that. "They're documenting this, apparently," I said, "which means they think they're legitimate or they're building some kind of fake case." "Either way, they're about to have a very bad day," said Rick Paulson, our breacher, cracking his knuckles. We made it through the base gate in record time, flashed our IDs, and Davis gunned it toward Chesapeake. The GPS showed 18 minutes to Mom's house, but Davis was driving like we were on an extraction mission. "Mom, tell me about the documents they showed you," I said, keeping her talking to keep her calm. "They pushed some papers through the mail slot," she said. "It says Tidewater HOA management at the top. There's a list of violations. It says my mailbox is the wrong color, my grass is too long, I have unauthorized decorations, and I haven't paid HOA dues in 3 years. Jake, none of this makes sense. I've never gotten any notices before this. And I specifically bought a house outside any HOA. Did you sign anything? Did they get you to sign anything?" "No, I didn't even open the door. I saw them through the peephole, and when that woman started demanding I come out, I knew something was wrong." "Good. That's good, Mom." "You did exactly right." Through the phone, I heard aggressive knocking again. "Ma'am, this is your final warning. We have the authority to remove you from this property. You are illegally occupying an HOA-managed residence. I own this house," my mom shouted back. "I have the deed." "I've never been part of any HOA. Your deed is subject to HOA covenants that were enacted after purchase. You were notified by mail." I looked at Marcus. "Can they do that? Impose an HOA after the fact?" "Not legally, no," Marcus said. He'd dealt with enough housing issues in his 20 years in the Navy. You can't unilaterally impose HOA rules on existing properties without the homeowner's consent and proper legal process. This smells like a scam. Kyle had his phone out, searching. "I'm looking up Tidewater HOA management. There's a website, but it looks sketchy. Stock photos, generic language, no actual address listed, just a P.O. box and a phone number." "Call it," Marcus ordered. Kyle dialed while I kept talking to my mom. "Mom, we're about 12 minutes out now. Just stay calm, stay inside, and don't engage with them." "The locksmith is drilling out my lock," Mom said, her voice rising in panic. "Jake, he's actually drilling out my lock." "Mom, get that on video if you can, but stay away from the door. Go to your bedroom and lock that door too." I heard her footsteps retreating through the house. "I'm going to the bedroom." "Oh God, Jake, what if they get in before you get here?" "Then they're going to have a very short career as criminals," I said flatly. "Mom, I need you to tell me if you have anything you can use to defend yourself. Not that I think it'll come to that, but just in case. Your father's baseball bat is in the closet. Get it, and keep your phone with you." Kyle held up his phone. "The number for Tidewater HOA management goes to a voicemail that's full. Can't leave a message." "These are scammers," I said. "They've probably done this before." "Running through scenarios," Marcus said, his tactical mind already working. "Best case, we show up, they see 6 Navy SEALs, they run. We detain them until police arrive. Worst case, they're armed, desperate, or have additional backup. Either way, we go in controlled, professional. This is on American soil, these are civilians, and we follow civilian law enforcement protocols." "Clear?" Everyone nodded. We were warriors, but we weren't vigilantes. We'd handle this by the book. 10 minutes, Davis announced, weaving through traffic with practiced precision. Through the phone, I heard the terrible sound of wood splintering. "They're breaking down my door," Mom screamed. "What room are you in?" I demanded. "Master bedroom, door is locked." Get in the bathroom, lock that door too. Now, Mom, I heard her moving, another door closing, a lock clicking. I'm in the bathroom, stay there. We're 8 minutes out. The woman's voice carried through the phone, closer now, inside the house. We know you're here. You're only making this harder on yourself. Come out and vacate the premises peacefully. This is breaking and entering, Marcus said coldly. They just escalated to home invasion. Jake, tell your mom the police are coming and she should announce that. Mom, yell that the police are on their way. I heard her shout, the police are coming. You're breaking the law. There was a pause, then Patricia's voice, angry now. We are the law when it comes to HOA matters. You don't get to just ignore the rules. 6 minutes, Davis said, running a red light after checking for traffic. My heart was pounding. 6 minutes felt like an eternity when your mother was locked in a bathroom with criminals in her house. The rest of the team was silent, faces grim, each of them understanding exactly what this meant. These weren't just any criminals, these were people who preyed on vulnerable homeowners, probably elderly people living alone, people like my mom. I hear them trying the bedroom door, Mom whispered, her voice tight with fear. That door going to hold? I asked. I don't know, maybe. It's solid wood. Mom, I need you to listen to me. If they get through that door, you start screaming as loud as you can. Make noise, make a scene, but we're going to be there in 5 minutes. 5 minutes and this is over. Through the phone, I heard a man's voice. Patricia, maybe we should go. She said Navy SEALs are coming. She's bluffing, Patricia snapped. And even if she's not, we have legal authority, we have documentation, we're within our rights. She's delusional, Kyle muttered. She actually believes she has authority. 4 minutes, Davis announced. The sound of something hitting the bedroom door echoed through the phone. They were trying to force it. Jake, they're trying to break down the bedroom door. Mom's voice was panicked now, the fear I heard making my blood boil. Hold on, Mom, we're almost there. Marcus was on his phone with the Chesapeake PD. This is Chief Petty Officer Rodriguez, U.S. Navy. We have a home invasion in progress at 847 Oakmont Drive in Chesapeake. Suspects are actively breaking down interior doors. We are 3 minutes out. What's your ETA? He listened, then said, 10 minutes is too long. We're going in. Be advised, 6 active-duty Navy SEALs will be on scene securing the suspects. 2 minutes, Davis said, taking a corner fast enough that the Humvee tilted. I could hear the bedroom door splintering now. Jake, the door's breaking. Mom, start screaming, make noise. We're 90 seconds out. My mom started screaming, loud and shrill. Help, someone help me, I'm being attacked, help. Then I heard Patricia's voice closer. Stop that screaming, we're not attacking you. We're simply enforcing HOA regulations. 1 minute, Davis said. We could see the neighborhood now. Oak trees lining the streets, neat houses with well-kept yards. Mom's house was the blue one on the corner, exactly as I remembered. And there, in the driveway, was a white van with magnetic signs on the side that read Tidewater HOA Management. That's the house, I said. Davis pulled up fast, the Humvee screeching to a stop at the curb. We were out before it fully stopped, 6 Navy SEALs moving with synchronized precision toward the house. The front door was hanging open, the lock mechanism destroyed. I went through first, Marcus right behind me, the others fanning out. Federal operators. Marcus shouted, even though technically we weren't operating in any federal capacity. But the announcement had the desired effect. I heard scrambling from the back of the house, panicked voices. I moved quickly down the hallway toward the master bedroom, where the door was indeed broken, hanging on its hinges, and there she was. Patricia. Mid-50s, blonde hair in a severe bob, wearing a navy blazer with a cheap HOA badge pinned to it. She was standing in front of the bathroom door with a crowbar in her hand. Behind her were 2 men, both looking suddenly very unsure of their life choices. Step away from the door, I said, my voice deadly calm. Patricia turned, her face flushed with anger and indignation. Who do you think you are, barging into an official HOA enforcement action? I'm her son, and you're in her house illegally. Step away from the door, now. The two men immediately put their hands up and stepped back. At least they had survival instincts. Patricia, however, stood her ground. I have every legal right to be here. This homeowner has been in violation of HOA bylaws for 3 years. We have attempted to contact her multiple times. We are within our rights to enforce compliance. Marcus stepped up beside me. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to put down the crowbar and step outside. I will not. I am the president of the Tidewater HOA and I have authority here. Kyle and Tommy had the two men secured against the wall, not touching them but making it very clear they weren't going anywhere. Rick was checking the rest of the house to make sure there weren't any other surprises. Mom, I called out, it's Jake, you can come out now. It's safe. I heard the bathroom lock click and then the door opened. Mom stood there, mascara running down her face, gripping Dad's old Louisville slugger with white knuckles. When she saw me, she broke down completely. I moved past Patricia, who tried to grab my arm. I shrugged her off easily and pulled my mom into a hug. She was shaking like a leaf. It's okay, Mom, I got you, you're safe. Jake, I was so scared. They broke down my door, they were trying to get to me. I know, but it's over now. Patricia's shrill voice cut through the moment. This is obstruction of HOA business. I will have all of you arrested. I will sue. You have no right to interfere. Marcus turned to her with the kind of cold stare that had made enemy combatants reconsider their life choices. Ma'am, you have committed multiple felonies in the last 15 minutes. Breaking and entering, home invasion, attempted forced eviction, impersonating officials. I strongly suggest you stop talking and wait for the police to arrive. I am not impersonating anyone. I am the HOA president. Of an HOA that this property doesn't belong to, I said, still holding my mom. Mom, did you ever sign any HOA documents, any covenants or agreements? She shook her head. Never. That was the whole point. I specifically avoided HOA neighborhoods. Ma'am, do you have your deed and property documents? Marcus asked. Mom nodded, pulling away from me to go to her dresser. Her hands were still shaking as she pulled out a file folder with all her property paperwork. Marcus took it, reviewing the documents quickly. This property has no HOA covenant. There are no restrictions, no HOA agreements, nothing. This is a non-HOA property. The HOA was established after she purchased, Patricia insisted. All properties in this area were brought under HOA management 3 years ago. That's not how property law works, Marcus said. You can't unilaterally impose an HOA on existing properties without the owner's explicit consent and proper legal channels. We sent notices. Even if you did, which I doubt, that doesn't give you legal authority, and it certainly doesn't give you the right to break into someone's home. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Rick came back from securing the perimeter. House is clear, just these 3. The van outside has a bunch of fake HOA notices, documents, and what looks like a list of other properties. They're running a scam, Kyle said, looking through some papers he'd found in Patricia's bag. Look at this. Templates for HOA violation notices, fake bylaws, boilerplate legal threats. This is a whole operation. The sirens were right outside now. 2 Chesapeake Police Department cruisers pulled up and 4 officers came through the front door, hands on their weapons. Police. Everybody stay where you are, Marcus immediately identified us. Chief Petty Officer Marcus Rodriguez, U.S. Navy, these are my team members. We're all active duty military. The homeowner is the woman there, Mrs. Sarah Mitchell. These 3 individuals, he pointed to Patricia and her 2 accomplices, broke into this home and attempted to forcibly evict the homeowner under false pretenses of HOA authority. One of the officers, a sergeant based on his stripes, looked around at the scene. Anybody hurt? No injuries, I said. But they destroyed her front door, broke down her bedroom door, and terrorized my mother for the better part of half an hour. The sergeant nodded to his officers, who moved to detain Patricia and the 2 men. Patricia immediately started protesting loudly. This is outrageous. We have done nothing wrong. We are the Tidewater HOA management. We have every right to enforce compliance. These military thugs are interfering with legal business. "Ma'am, I need you to stop talking," the sergeant said. "You're being detained for investigation of breaking and entering, home invasion, and fraud." "I want my lawyer. This is harassment. I'll have all your badges." The officers cuffed all three of them and started reading them their rights. The younger of the two men looked like he was about to cry. The older one was staring at the floor, probably realizing exactly how badly this had gone wrong. The sergeant turned to my mom. "Mrs. Mitchell, I'm Sergeant Davis. Can you tell me what happened here?" Mom took a shaky breath and walked him through it. How Patricia and the two men had shown up claiming to be from an HOA she'd never heard of. How they'd demanded she vacate immediately. How they'd started destroying her locks when she refused. How they'd broken into her home and tried to force their way into the bathroom where she'd barricaded herself. Sergeant Davis took notes, then looked at the documents Rick had found. "Looks like you folks stumbled onto something bigger than a simple home invasion. This looks like an organized fraud operation." "How many other people have they done this to?" I asked. "That's what we'll be finding out." He looked at Patricia, who was still ranting from the back of the police cruiser. "We've actually had a few reports in the last year about aggressive HOA enforcement tactics in neighborhoods that don't have HOAs. Never could pin down who was doing it. Looks like we've got our answer." Another officer was photographing the damage to the doors, documenting everything. A crime scene tech arrived and started collecting evidence from the van, including the locksmith tools, the fake documents, and what turned out to be several $1,000s in cash and checks made out to Tidewater HOA management. "These folks were making serious money off this scam," the tech observed. Over the next hour, more details emerged. The two men sang like canaries once they realized how much trouble they were in. Patricia Dennison had been running the fake HOA scam for almost 2 years. She'd target homes in nice neighborhoods that didn't have HOAs, especially homes owned by elderly people or people living alone. She'd show up with official-looking documents claiming the property had been brought into an HOA, claim there were years of unpaid dues and violations, and threaten legal action or eviction. Most people, scared and confused, would pay. Some paid thousands of dollars to resolve fake violations. A few, like my mom, refused, and that's when Patricia would escalate to intimidation tactics. The forced eviction attempt was new, according to the two men. Patricia had been getting bolder, convinced that her official-looking operation made her untouchable. She'd made a mistake targeting my mom. A bad one. The detective who arrived to take over the investigation was thorough. Detective Lisa Harper was in her 40s, sharp-eyed and no-nonsense. She interviewed each of us separately, took detailed statements, and collected all the evidence. "Mrs. Mitchell, I have to say, calling your son was the best decision you could have made," Detective Harper said. "Most of Patricia Dennison's victims have been too scared or embarrassed to report it. She's been operating under the radar, moving between different cities in the Tidewater area. But now that we have her in custody with clear evidence of breaking and entering, home invasion, and fraud, we can build a solid case." "What will happen to her?" Mom asked. "She's looking at multiple felonies. Breaking and entering, home invasion, extortion, fraud, operating a criminal enterprise. Her bail is going to be set very high if she gets bail at all, and once we track down her other victims, those charges are going to pile up." "Good," Mom said quietly. "I hope nobody else has to go through what I went through." Detective Harper looked at me and my team. "I have to ask, what are the odds that 6 Navy SEALs would be exactly 5 minutes away when this went down?" Marcus smiled slightly. "We just got released on leave. Jake's mom called it exactly the right moment, or wrong moment, depending on how you look at it." "Wrong moment for Patricia Dennison, that's for sure," Detective Harper said. "I don't think she's ever encountered real resistance before. She was used to scaring seniors and getting away with it." "She picked the wrong senior to mess with," I said, putting my arm around my mom. As the police finished processing the scene and preparing to transport Patricia and her crew to jail, we helped Mom start cleaning up. The front door was destroyed, and the bedroom door was damaged beyond repair. "I'll get these fixed," I told her. "I've got 3 days of leave. Tomorrow morning we'll have new doors installed." "Jake, you don't have to do that. You should be relaxing on your leave." "Mom, I'm not leaving you in a house with a broken door. Besides, the guys will help." "Right, guys," Tommy grinned. "Absolutely, I've installed a few doors in my time." "And we blow things up for a living," Rick added. "Installing a door is basically the opposite of our job description. Should be fun." Mom managed a weak smile. For the first time since we'd arrived, some color was coming back to her face. Sergeant Davis approached with a card. "Mrs. Mitchell, here's the case number and my contact information. You'll need to file a formal complaint, which you can do tomorrow at the station. We'll also need you to come in and make an official statement when you're feeling up to it." "I can do that," Mom said. "And ma'am, I want you to know that we take elder abuse very seriously. Patricia Dennison is going to face the full weight of the law for what she did to you and her other victims." After the police left, taking Patricia and her accomplices with them, we spent the rest of the evening securing Mom's house. Tommy and Rick went to a hardware store and bought a temporary door and reinforcement bars. We installed everything properly, making sure Mom would be safe for the night. Danny ordered pizza for everyone, and we sat in Mom's living room, the adrenaline finally wearing off. Mom was exhausted, emotionally drained, but she was safe. That was all that mattered. "I still can't believe you all came," she said, looking around at my team. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, we did," Marcus said firmly. "Jake's family is our family, that's how it works." "Besides," Kyle added, "what else were we going to do, go home and watch TV? This was way more interesting." Mom laughed, a real laugh, and I felt the tension in my chest finally ease. She was going to be okay. That night, I slept on Mom's couch, even though she insisted I didn't have to. I wasn't leaving her alone, not after what she'd been through. The rest of the team headed to their own homes and families, but they all left their numbers with Mom and made her promise to call if she needed anything. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of coffee and bacon. Mom was in the kitchen, cooking breakfast like nothing had happened, but I could see the way her hands shook slightly, the way she kept glancing at the front door. "Morning," I said, pouring myself coffee. "Morning, honey. I made your favorite." We ate breakfast together, and slowly, Mom started talking about what happened, really talking about it, how scared she'd been, how helpless she'd felt, how she'd thought they were actually going to hurt her. I kept thinking, what if you hadn't answered? What if you'd been deployed? What would I have done? But I did answer, and I wasn't deployed, and you're safe now. I know. I just keep thinking about all those other people Patricia did this to, people who didn't have someone to call, people who paid her just to make her go away. Detective Harper is going to find them, and they'll get justice too. Later that morning, a contractor showed up, a guy Tommy knew who owed him a favor. He took measurements for both doors and promised to have them installed by that afternoon. Mom and I drove to the Chesapeake Police Department, where she gave her formal statement to Detective Harper. It took almost 2 hours, going through every detail. The detective recorded everything, documenting the timeline, the threats, the damage, everything. "Mrs. Mitchell, I want to show you something," Detective Harper said, pulling up a file on her computer. "We executed a search warrant on Patricia Dennison's home this morning. We found records for 43 victims over the past 2 years. Between them, she's collected over $200,000 in fake HOA dues, violation fines, and legal fees." Mom's eyes widened. $200,000. Yes, and that's just what we've documented so far. We're reaching out to all of her known victims. Many of them are elderly on fixed incomes. Some paid her thousands of dollars they couldn't afford because they were scared. "That's horrible," Mom said. "It is. But because of your courage in refusing to pay and calling for help, we've shut her down. She's facing charges that could put her away for 10 to 15 years, possibly more depending on what else we uncover." "What about the men who were with her?" "They're cooperating fully. The locksmith, Brian Turner, admits to drilling out locks on 6 different properties." The other man, Steve Vaughn, was her muscle. He'd help intimidate victims, damage property, whatever Patricia needed. They're both facing significant charges, but their cooperation will likely get them reduced sentences. We left the police station feeling a mix of emotions. Relief that Patricia was in custody, anger at what she'd done to so many people, and a strange sense of purpose. Mom had stood up to a predator and by doing so had saved dozens of other potential victims. Back at the house, the contractor was already at work on the new doors. True to his word, he had both the front door and bedroom door replaced by late afternoon, solid, secure, with good locks. "Mom, I'm also getting you a security system installed," I told her. "Cameras, motion sensors, the whole thing, no arguments." "Jake, that's expensive." "I don't care." "You're getting it. I need to know you're safe, especially when I'm deployed." She hugged me tight. "Thank you, baby, for everything, for coming when I called, for believing me, for bringing your whole team." "Always, Mom, always." Over the next few days, my leave turned into a strange mix of relaxation and dealing with the aftermath of Patricia's crime. I stayed with Mom, helping her process everything. We painted the new doors to match the rest of the house. We got the security system installed. We went through all her property documents and made sure everything was properly filed and backed up. Detective Harper called regularly with updates. More victims were coming forward. The news had picked up the story, running segments about the fake HOA scam. People across the Tidewater area were checking their own property records, making sure they hadn't been targeted. Patricia Dennison was denied bail. The judge ruled that she was a flight risk and a danger to the community, especially to elderly homeowners. She'd be staying in jail until her trial. The two men, Brian Turner and Steve Vaughn, both took plea deals. They agreed to testify against Patricia in exchange for reduced sentences. Brian got 2 years. Steve got 3. Patricia was looking at more than a decade behind bars. The story got picked up nationally. Navy SEAL team stops fake HOA eviction ran on several news sites. My team and I got interviewed by a few outlets, though we tried to keep the focus on the victims and the crime, not on our intervention. "The real story here is about predators targeting vulnerable homeowners," Marcus told one reporter. "About criminals using fear and fake authority to steal from people. We just happened to be in the right place at the right time." But privately, we all knew how lucky the timing had been. 5 minutes. That's how close Patricia had been to getting into that bathroom where my mom was hiding. 5 minutes between my mom's call and our arrival. If we'd been deployed, if we'd been further away, if Mom hadn't thought to call me, this story could have ended very differently. On my last day of leave, Mom and I sat on her back porch drinking iced tea and watching the sun set. She seemed more like herself again. The fear was fading, replaced by a quiet strength. "You know what the worst part was?" she said suddenly. "It wasn't just the fear. It was the feeling that the system had failed me, that someone could show up at my door with fake authority and there was nothing I could do about it, that I was helpless." "But you weren't helpless. You fought back. You didn't let her intimidate you into paying. You called for help." "I called my son, who happened to be a Navy SEAL who happened to be 5 minutes away with his entire team. What if I hadn't had that option? But you did. And now 43 other people are getting justice because you stood up to her," she smiled. "I guess that's true. Besides, you had Dad's baseball bat. You would have figured something out," she laughed. "Your father would have loved this story, him and his bat making one last save." We sat in comfortable silence, watching the sky turn orange and pink. My leave was over tomorrow. I'd be heading back to base, back to training, eventually back to deployment. But Mom would be okay. She had her security system, her new doors, and a newfound confidence that she could handle whatever came her way. The trial happened 6 months later. I was able to get leave to attend, and I sat in the courtroom with Mom as Patricia Dennison faced justice. The prosecution brought victim after victim to the stand. Elderly men and women who'd been scammed out of thousands of dollars, people who'd lived in fear of Patricia's threats. People who'd paid money they couldn't afford because they believed they had no choice. The evidence was overwhelming. The fake documents, the financial records showing where all that money had gone, testimony from Brian and Steve about how the operation worked. And Mom's case, the home invasion that had finally brought Patricia down. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours, guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced Patricia Dennison to 12 years in federal prison, followed by supervised probation and an order to pay full restitution to all her victims. It wasn't enough to undo the harm she'd caused, but it was justice. As we left the courthouse, Mom squeezed my hand. "It's really over." "It's over," I agreed. "Thank you, Jake, for everything, for being there when I needed you, for bringing your team, for standing by me through all of this." "That's what family does, Mom. We show up." Several months after the trial, I got a letter from Detective Harper. She'd been promoted, partly due to her work on the Patricia Dennison case. But more importantly, her investigation had led to the creation of a task force specifically focused on HOA fraud and elder abuse in Virginia. They were educating homeowners about their rights, investigating suspicious HOA claims, and prosecuting scammers who preyed on vulnerable people. "Your mother's case sparked real change," Detective Harper wrote. "Because she was brave enough to resist, and because you and your team were there to help her, we've been able to protect countless other homeowners from similar scams." The task force has already prevented several other fraudulent operations and educated thousands of people about how to verify legitimate HOA claims. I showed the letter to Mom during my next visit home. She read it twice, tears in her eyes. "All those people," she said softly. "All those people who won't go through what I went through. Because of you," I reminded her, "because you were brave enough to fight back." She framed the letter and hung it in her hallway, right next to the pictures of Dad and me in our respective military uniforms. A reminder that courage comes in many forms. Sometimes it's facing enemy fire. Sometimes it's refusing to be intimidated by a woman with a fake badge and a crowbar. Life went back to normal, or as normal as life gets for a Navy SEAL. I deployed twice more over the next 2 years. Each time I knew Mom was safe, the security system kept watch. The community, now educated about HOA scams, kept an eye out for suspicious activity. And Mom herself was different now, stronger, more confident. She'd faced down a predator and won. She even joined a local advocacy group for homeowner rights, helping other people understand their property rights and how to resist fraudulent claims. She became the kind of person other people called when they needed help, just like she'd called me that day. "I figure I should pay it forward," she told me during a video call while I was deployed overseas. "You and your team showed up for me. Now I can show up for other people." That made me prouder than any medal or commendation I'd ever received. The story of what happened that day became something of a legend in my SEAL team. The day we went from training exercise to home invasion response in under 5 minutes. The day we stopped a fake HOA enforcer and her criminal enterprise. The day we protected one of our own. Marcus retired 2 years later and moved to Chesapeake, actually. He and Mom became good friends. She'd invite him over for dinner and they'd swap stories about keeping me in line. He started his own security consulting business, helping homeowners and small businesses protect themselves from various scams and threats. The rest of the team stayed in touch with Mom too. Kyle sent her funny memes about HOAs. Tommy called her on Mother's Day every year. Rick sent Christmas cards with pictures of his growing family. Danny helped her upgrade her computer and set up encrypted communications so we could video chat more securely when I was deployed. They'd become her extended family, and she'd become theirs. That's what happens when you go through something intense together. You're bonded for life. Patricia Dennison served every day of her 12-year sentence. No early release, no reduced time. She tried to appeal multiple times, claiming she'd actually believed she had authority, that she'd been confused about the law, that she'd never intended to hurt anyone. The appeals were all denied. The evidence was too clear, the victims too numerous, the harm too severe. When she was finally released, she was a different woman. Broken, financially ruined, and facing a lifetime of supervised probation and debt as she paid restitution to her victims. She moved out of state, forbidden from any kind of property management or HOA-related work. Last I heard, she was working at a fast food restaurant, every paycheck garnished to pay back the people she'd stolen from. I didn't feel sorry for her. She'd made her choices. She'd preyed on vulnerable people. She'd terrorized my mother. She'd earned every consequence that came her way. As for Mom, she thrived. The experience, as traumatic as it had been, had awakened something in her, a sense of purpose, a desire to help others, a refusal to be a victim. She became a voice for homeowner rights, speaking at community meetings, writing op-eds for the local paper, and helping dozens of people understand their rights and resist scammers. "You know what's funny?" she said to me during my last visit home before this current deployment. "Patricia thought she was taking advantage of a weak, scared old woman, but she actually helped me find my strength again. After your father died, I felt lost. I felt like I was just going through the motions, but standing up to her, surviving that, it reminded me that I'm stronger than I think." "You were always strong, Mom. You just needed a reminder," she smiled. "Maybe, but I'm glad I had you and your team there to back me up while I found it again." We were sitting on her back porch again, same spot where we'd sat after the arrest, but this time there was no fear, no trauma. Just peace. Her house was secure. Her community was educated, and she was safe. 5 minutes, she said, shaking her head. "You were 5 minutes away. What are the odds?" "Divine intervention," I suggested. "Dad looking out for you. Maybe, or maybe just dumb luck. Either way, I'm grateful." "Me too, Mom. Me too." Looking back on it all, I realized how easily things could have gone wrong. If Patricia had been more violent, if she'd been armed, if we'd been further away or unable to respond, if Mom had panicked and opened the door, so many variables that could have changed everything. But they didn't. The timing was perfect. The response was perfect, and justice was served. It reinforced something I already knew but sometimes forgot in the chaos of military life. The most important missions aren't always overseas. Sometimes they're 5 minutes from base, protecting the people you love from predators who hide behind fake authority and prey on the vulnerable. Patricia Dennison thought she could intimidate my mother. She thought her fake badge and manufactured authority made her untouchable. She thought she could break into someone's home, terrorize them, and face no consequences. She was wrong. And she learned that lesson in the most definitive way possible. Surrounded by 6 Navy SEALs who'd just gotten released on leave and had nothing better to do than make sure a scammer faced justice. The house on Oakmont Drive in Chesapeake, Virginia, stands secure now. New doors, security system, a strong woman inside who knows her rights and won't be intimidated. The neighborhood is safer, educated about scams and fake authority. And somewhere, 43 other victims got their money back and their dignity restored. All because my mom called me when she needed help, and I was 5 minutes away with my entire SEAL team. Sometimes timing really is everything. Mom still lives in that house. She'll probably live there for the rest of her life. It's her home. The place she chose specifically because it didn't have an HOA telling her what to do. And now, after everything, it represents something more. It represents resistance, courage, the power of family, and the simple truth that predators don't always win. The story ends the way all good stories should, with the bad guys in jail, the victims getting justice, and the hero, which was my mom, all along standing strong and safe in her own home, exactly where she belongs, and me. I'm back on deployment now, halfway around the world doing what I do. But I sleep easier knowing Mom is safe. Knowing she has her security system, her community, and a phone line to 6 Navy SEALs who proved we could be there in 5 minutes when she needed us most. That's what matters. Not the medals or commendations, not the missions or deployments. But being there when your family calls. being ready to respond, being willing to stand between the people you love and anyone who would hurt them. Patricia Dennison learned that lesson the hard way, and every other scammer in the Tidewater area learned it too. You don't mess with military families. You don't prey on our parents, and you definitely don't try to evict someone's mother when her son and his entire SEAL team are 5 minutes away on leave. That's not just a bad idea. It's a career-ending mistake, and in Patricia's case, it was a life-destroying one. Justice served, family protected, mission accomplished.